Hi, I'm Locke Meredith with the Legal Lines. We are very fortunate to have on our show Judge Curtis Calloway with the 19th Judicial District Court. Judge Calloway is going to talk about his stint as a civil court judge, as a criminal court judge, and he's also going to talk about a program he's been involved in for delinquent youth. It's an alternative to just sticking them in jail or LTI, and it's a wonderful program. Join us, please. Locke Meredith with the Legal Lines. Welcome, I'm Locke Meredith with the Legal Lines. Today we're very fortunate to have with us Judge Curtis Calloway. He's a judge on the 19th Judicial District Court. Judge, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Locke. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, your family history. I know you got kids and a wife.
Well, I am married to Louise Ford Callaway. We have two children, two sons. One is Curtis Shannon Callaway. The other one is Conrad Lamar Callaway. They are both in the military at this time. My oldest son is in the United States Navy, stationed in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And my youngest son is in the United States Marine Corps, and he is stationed in Okinawa at the present time.
Wow. You think they're going to see some action overseas?
Well, my oldest son probably will. He's an engineer and officer on the USS Barry, and they're in the Eisenhower Battle Group, and I am certain that within the next month or so they will be going on a cruise, and I don't know where they're going to go, but it's very likely that they will, because he is on a destroyer.
Wow. Well, we appreciate the service they're giving their country. How long have you been married?
I've been married 34 years to the same woman.
Good for you. Congratulations. That's quite a feat in these days. Give me a little bit of background, educational history. Where'd you graduate?
I graduated in Birmingham, Alabama, from a little school called Miles College. Came to Southern to law school, and I've been in Louisiana ever since.
In your private practice, what did you do?
I practiced with two gentlemen in Scotlandville, Louisiana, Van LeCour and Nathan Wilson. We did a general civil practice. We did not do any criminal at all. We did basically real estate and commercial litigation, representing banks and primarily doing real estate closings.
Now, how long did you do that?
I practiced law for 16 years, I believe it was, from 1972 until 1988, when I was elected to the Baton Rouge City Court.
Now, what helped you make up your mind to run for public office? Because that's pretty much a serious undertaking.
Sometimes I don't know why I did it. But we decided that we were going to try to integrate the judicial system, and I decided that I was going to run for the city court. And you won. And fortunately, I won.
Now, how long were you at city court?
I was at the Baton Rouge City Court for 4 years, from 88 to 92, and at which time we moved from city court to the district court.
Now, what did you do in city court? As I appreciate it, I don't spend a whole lot of time there, but city court is dealing with smaller type of claims, but every kind of claim.
Yes, we did, as you said, every kind of claim. We did civil and criminal. At that time, I believe the civil jurisdiction was $10,000. I think it has been moved up to $20,000
right
now. And of course, the criminal jurisdiction is still the same: 6 months in jail, and I think it's $1,000 fine.
Which is misdemeanors?
Which is misdemeanor.
Okay. And you handle both of those kind of cases?
We handle both of those kinds of cases, and of course you know that since it is a city court, the jurisdictional limits are the city limits of Baton Rouge.
So it doesn't include the outer parishes?
That is correct. It does not include outside of the city limits.
Now, from there you went to the 19th Judicial District Court, which is the parish-wide court.
That is correct.
Now, you've been there how long?
I've been there, 12 years, I believe. This is my 12th year, I believe it is.
And initially, as I understand it, you handled the criminal aspects.
Of course, as you know, on the district court, the junior judges, under the system that we have, go to criminal court, and when one gets a sufficient amount of seniority, you can make the choice of staying there or going to the civil side of the court.
And you went to the civil side?
I went to the civil side after 4 years on the criminal court.
Describe your stint as the criminal judge. I mean, what did you see, Judge?
As one of the criminal court judges, I believe like that I have seen all kinds of cases whilst on the city court and on the district court, particularly on the district court. As you know, on the city court you're looking at 6 months and $1,000 fine. On the district court you're looking at everything from a misdemeanor of $1,000 to life imprisonment
For murder.
For murder. And as you know, in this state, when we say life in prison, that's exactly what we mean.
Serious business, isn't it?
It's very serious. And if you are sentenced to life in prison, that is what you must serve in this state.
Now, Judge, did you see a lot of young offenders in there? I know you're kind of involved in youth programs.
We saw and still see too many young persons coming into the judicial system. I don't know what we need to do to curb that flow, but something must be done, because I think the legislature realized last year we cannot afford to put the numbers of persons in prison that we're putting in at this time.
It's sad, isn't it?
It is very sad.
What you got any ideas? What do we do? I know that there's different kind of alternative programs that we've tried. Are those working?
I believe that some of them are working. I believe that we need to spend more money in creating alternative to sending guys or persons to prison. Some of the money that we're spending on prisons, I think we need to spend on some kind of a halfway house intermediary place instead of sending persons to jail.
Let's make it clear. Now, we're not talking about halfway houses and alternative programs for these hardened criminals. We're talking about for the youthful, first-time offender kind of guys.
We're talking about those persons who are first-timers, and particularly we have a lot of young persons who are right at that stage that we need to catch them and stop them from getting into the system. There are a lot of persons or young people and juveniles who I think history shows us that unless something is done, these people are going to graduate and go over into the adult system.
Right.
And maybe if we can catch them between the juvenile detention place and the state prisons, that maybe we can stop them and turn around.
What programs do you know about? I know I've heard on TV, I'm sure a lot of folks have, that they have these boot camp type facilities. Did you see any of that?
Of course, you know, we don't deal in boot camps. But I would tell you that I am on the board of an organization called named the Baton Rouge Marine Institute. It is an alternative program. The children are referred to this program from the juvenile courts and the Office of Youth Development at the Department of Corrections. The stated goal of this organization is to catch these young people and do whatever we can do to keep them from going into the adult system. The goal of, say, the Baton Rouge Marine Institute is to stop these guys from graduating to the adult system.
Well, Judge, let's pick up with that topic after this short break. Thank you for being with us. I'm Locke Meredith with the Legal Line. Hi, thank you for coming back to us. This is Locke Meredith with the Legal Lines, and we're very fortunate and honored to have today with us Judge Curtis Calloway. He's a judge on the 19th Judicial District Court. Judge, again, thank you.
Thank you.
We were talking about the Marine program that you're involved in. Now, I understand you actually in the Marines. We're talking the military.
Yes.
But that's not really what this is.
This is a program that is not the United States Marine Corps. This program got its name, the Marine Institute, because the judge who started this program was from down in Florida. The program used Marine and the Marine aspect of swimming, diving, scuba diving as an incentive to get these young people to be motivated. The goal was, if they did all of the things that they were supposed to do, then there was something like a trip to scuba dive or deep sea fishing or something like this. to motivate them to improve their conduct and, of course, to improve their grade levels in the program.
How many kids do y'all have in the program?
We have about 35 kids. We have a capacity for 42, I believe. And we fluctuate between 35 and 40.
And the source of the kids is actually the judicial system?
The source of the kids are juvenile courts and the Office of Youth Development, which is a part of the Department of Corrections. Instead of, say, sending kids to LTI, then they use Baton Rouge Marine Institute as a place to send them instead of sending them into the system, with the goal that we will take these kids and improve their grade levels at least 2 years in the 6 months to a year that we have them.
Are they actually in-house, so to speak, or do they just come for the day? How does that work?
It is a day program. We have buses to go into the surrounding parishes if we get kids from those parishes and bring them to our program, which is on Beechwood, and they stay there during the day. Then we transport them back home in the evening.
How large is the staff?
Oh, I don't know exactly, but I would imagine we have about 10 or 12 staff.
And is it public funding or private funding or both, or how's that work?
It's public and
both.
A little private. The majority of the funds do come from the students who are referred to us from the Department of Corrections.
It sounds like a wonderful program. Is there a reason why it doesn't expand, or is it in the test stage right now? Or
well, no, it's not in the test stage. It hasn't expanded because what has made the program successful is the small number of kids that we have, and these kids need structure. So if the program gets too big, then we cannot give them the structure that our record has proven that we can do.
Now,
working with a small number of kids.
What are their ages, Judge?
Usually we get them anywhere from like 12 until 16 or 17.
That's a pretty important age, isn't it?
It's a very important age. This is in that age group that they are ready to move to the next level, so we can stop them and catch them in this age group and get them back into school. One of the goals of this program is to get them back in school, and for those kids who are not going back into school, to get them into some kind of gainful employment. We have a contract with the Builders Association whereby we can take these kids, put them in building programs, educate them, get them into the plants like Exxon. The builders have a program where they will take our kids, train them, and when they get old enough to go into a plant like Exxon, we can send them in there with the training, and we have had kids to go in that program making $17 an hour.
Wow. So you're giving them hope and skills that they can live a life with.
That is very, very true.
We were talking about it before the show, how that age, I've got kids between 6 and 14. Of course, yours are a lot older than mine, but you've experienced it, that it's an interesting stage because they want to be independent, but frankly, they're not ready to be totally turned loose.
Like you said, I have 2 children, and I'm convinced of one thing, and that is that most kids want guidance.
I agree 100%.
I do not believe that kids don't want any guidance. I just think kids want guidance, but they want proper guidance. And when they get that, I think they respond.
And very well. Let me ask you this. It sounds like that program is so wonderful. Do we have any other similar programs or alternative programs for the youth?
I am certain that there are, Locke, but offhand I cannot think of any. But I will say that we, the Marine Institutes, have a program in Baton Rouge, Red River, Lake Charles, and we had one in New Orleans that we're trying to get back active again.
I would think the need there, just because of the size of the population, would be huge.
Yeah.
They automatically involve the judiciary? Looking for judges since a judge started it, or
no.
How did you get involved in it?
Well, I will tell you that I got involved in the program through my good friend Doug Morrow. Doug recommended...
Who's the district attorney?
Who is the district attorney. Doug suggested that I look into the program, and of course on this program, on the board of this organization, we do have several judges. I'm on the board, Doug Morrow is on the board, Judge Ralph Tyson is on the board, Judge Bob Downing is on the board. So we have the board pretty much surrounded with judges and of course the district attorney.
But that gives it credibility, doesn't it?
I'm sure it sure does.
And you guys have seen what happens if a program like that doesn't exist. I know Judge Downing has been very active in looking for alternative programs too. Well, I'm thankful that y'all are doing that. Let's move to we kind of talked about the criminal part. In fact, Doug Morrow is the district attorney. Those are the guys that are coming to you. In fact, Sean, who is with me, Sean Fagan, actually prosecuted in your court. Is that right?
That is very true. Sean worked in my section for 2 or 3 years.
Well, you can't tell any bad stories about it.
Well, no, Sean is a nice fellow.
But in the civil bench, which is where you are now, the district attorney is not coming in prosecuting criminals. It's a whole different ballgame, isn't it?
It is very different from what it was on the criminal court.
Tell me the difference between the criminal court versus the civil court.
Well, you don't get as many hassles on the civil court as you get on the criminal court, and I don't mean it in a derogatory manner. But on the civil court, it moves much slower. The lawyers are concerned about making sure that their case is ready for trial, so that when they go to trial, they are in a position to move and make sure that they've done all the things that they need to do to try their case. And it's different.
Well, why don't we do the on the next segment, let's talk about the civil bench, meaning all the cases other than criminal, basically. And we'll do that right after this break. Thanks for being with us. This is Locke Meredith with the Legal Lines. Thank you. Welcome back. I'm Locke Meredith with the Legal Lines. Again, very pleased to have with us Judge Curtis Calloway. He's a judge on the 19th Judicial District Court. Judge, we were talking before about the criminal bench. You were there for 4 years, and I think you've said you've now been on the civil bench, which is basically everything other than criminal and bankruptcy type cases. For what, 8 years?
8 years.
Tell me about that. Let's kind of take a case, lawsuits filed. Kind of what do you see? What's the process for folks who've never been through this or might be going through it?
Well, the first thing that happens is that the plaintiff's attorney, in most instances these cases are filed by attorneys. The plaintiff attorney requests a pretrial conference or a status conference in my court, whereby they want to come in and get deadlines, make sure that they're basically in a posture to proceed to trial.
And the status conference kind of helps keeps things moving, doesn't it?
Well, usually until somebody decides to come in and get the court involved, a lot of cases just kind of linger around,
sure do,
waiting on the lawyers to decide what they want to do. And of course, once they come into, certainly in my section of court, and say, Judge, we want to make sure that this case moves, then when I have the status conference, I do everything that we need to do, including setting the matter for trial.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah. So, excuse me.
Well, and what I was going to say is the deadlines deal with, because what kind of the initial stage of litigation is an exchange of information or collection of evidence, and the deadlines you set are to ask questions of each other and exchange documents and take depositions, which means go takes the recorded statement of various witnesses and each other and stuff like that.
That's correct. Most people don't know that cases have to be moved by the attorneys, and usually if the attorneys don't move them, we as the judges, I'll suggest to you that I have probably 20,000 cases in my section of court, and I don't know what they are or who's involved in them until somebody comes in and say, Judge, we want to do something on this case. And then, of course, we get involved in it, and we make sure that from that point on it moves.
Yeah, it's not your job to represent either of those parties.
That is correct. And Locke, I find that a lot of people still come to court without a lawyer, and I spend a lot of time suggesting to litigants that if they don't have a lawyer, that they need to try to get a lawyer. And of course, a lot of people would say, well, Judge, I can't afford a lawyer. And of course, I tell them that there are some organizations that you need to look at to get a lawyer, namely the Capital Area Legal Services and the Baton Rouge Bar Association. I try to get people to go to these organizations to see if they can help them to obtain a lawyer, and usually they can.
In fact, as usual, us lawyers have some weird word for that, and it's called pro bono representation.
Well, in addition to pro bono, I'm one who believes that if you think you can't afford a lawyer, it's not fair to say because I think I can't afford one that I can't. I believe that there are a lot of lawyers out there who will take your case on some kind of an installment plan, but you've got to go to the lawyer and say, this is my situation, can you help me?
Right, I know I've done it. I think you're right. If somebody comes to a lawyer with a legitimate issue or problem, and they know it's a straight up deal, they're going to help, because we're not all here just to make a bunch of money. I know a lot of folks think lawyers are here just to do that, but we're public servants.
Well, like I said, I believe that if you talk to lawyers, there are some persons who are more altruistic than others, and they,
you're right.
And I mean, after all, lawyers are in this to make a living, but there are some lawyers who, as you have intimated, will look at your case, and if they believe that you really need a lawyer, that they'll try to help you.
Well, and in fact, the personal injury litigation is built on that concept completely, and that is a lawyer doesn't get a thing, earns no fee regardless of how many hundreds of hours he puts in a case, unless he wins.
That is true.
Now, we don't have that on the criminal side or in the contract litigation because, or at least usually you don't.
That's true.
Judge, tell me about kind of the organization of the 19th Judicial District Court. How many judges we got up there?
Right now we have 15 judges. We have 7 judges on civil, 7 judges on criminal, and we have 1 judge who's assigned to the drug court.
And then we have the family court system in addition.
We have the family court system in addition to our court, and I believe we have, 4 judges on the family court. And East Baton Rouge Parish is one of the few parishes where we have a separate juvenile court. At our juvenile court, we have 2 judges there. And of course, the other part of that is, we mentioned earlier the city court. We have 5 city court judges in East Baton Rouge Parish.
Wow.
Well, no, 5 city court judges in the city of Baton Rouge.
A lot of litigation, isn't it?
There is a lot.
What is your caseload? You said 20,000 cases?
Well, I said 20,000 that's probably assigned to my section. And I suspect that all of the other sections have about the same number of cases I do, because cases are randomly allotted, and if I have about 20,000, the other judges have about that same number.
That random selection better be fair, huh?
Well,
chop it up between
I will tell you that it is amazing how close they are. You know, one year I decided I was going to check just to see how random it was, and I will tell you that there was no more than like a difference of 10 cases between any of the judges. And when it gets that close, that's good.
Not a problem there, is it?
No.
So how do y'all deal with all these cases? I know, in fact, I'm going to talk with John Perry, who's a mediator. A lot of cases settle, but it's still, you guys have to get involved. But how do you deal with that number of cases?
Well, it's, as you just intimated, it is funny that once you set a case and when that trial date comes, it's amazing how many cases start settling because of the imminence of that trial date. And I don't know what the other judges do, but in my section of court, on each date that I set a case, I set 4 cases. And I will tell you that I'd be willing to bet you that when I set 4, I know that 2 of them are going to settle. And the closer we get to the trial date, maybe one of the other 2 is going to settle, so that usually on trial date I only have 1, which I can do. But even though I'm only trying one cases, I've disposed of 4 cases on that one setting.
Well, and in my experience, what happens is everybody's got to get ready. They get all the evidence and facts together, and if you got 2 reasonable lawyers and plaintiffs and defendants, we can look at the facts and generally have a feel for what's going to go down. And so, no question, having that trial date in front of us makes you move.
Well, excuse me. Even in those instances where I might have 2 trials that actually show up on that trial date, a lot of times I may be able to get one of those persons to settle that case that day, which still leaves me with 1 case to try.
Because you actually participate in settlement conferences.
That's correct.
Try and encourage the party to say, look, I've seen this, this is the way I'm seeing it. Judge, thank you so much for being on the show with us. It's been an honor to have you here, and we look forward to having you back.
Well, thank you, Locke. I didn't know that the time was going to go this quickly.
It's gone quickly. Thank you very much for being with us. Again, we've had Judge Curtis Calloway with the 19th Judicial District Court. We'll see you next time on The Legal Lines.